Today we're going to begin to talk about the church and society in medieval Europe. It's seen a wave of religious feeling sweep across Europe between the years of 1050 and 1150 AD. This feeling changed the way that people lived during this time period. The church was very powerful and influential. The church used that power to govern in many ways. As you look at this picture, this painting, you'll notice within it that you see a couple of things that are interesting. This painting depicts Jesus giving the keys of the kingdom to Peter. Now, the church believed that it held the keys to the kingdom. You'll notice in the background you see people dressed in more modern day clothes, along with the Sistine Chapel, where that painting was depicted to be taking place, where this was taking place. This was the mindset of the people. The church was the most important thing in their lives. Socially, religiously, the church took care of the people, and the people took care of the church. For this reason, you found a church within every manor, within that feudal system. And the people were willing to give to the church and to keep the church up no matter what. You're going to watch the YouTube link, and after you watch the YouTube link, you're going to answer the 5 questions that follow. So make sure that you copy those questions into a Pages document. After you copy those questions into a Pages document and answer them, you'll have a Dropbox in Blackboard to submit those questions to for grading. What occupation did 1/10 of medieval people choose? What was the main reason noble families gave so much to parish churches? How many years did it take to construct a medieval cathedral? How did stained glass serve as a teaching tool in churches? What was more powerful in medieval Europe than any other feudal state? As you've already learned from your video, about 1/10 of the people living in medieval Europe eventually became monks or nuns or priests or part of the clergy. It was just so important to them. It was part of their life. The church was very influential in every way. You'll notice on this slide it says religion was the most important aspect of medieval society. More monasteries were built, new religious orders or groups of priests, monks, and nuns were established. During this time period, the monasteries were more than just places of worship. These monasteries became hospitals, they became schools, they became the caretakers of medieval Europe in many ways. They were benevolent centers in medieval times, much like we have benevolence centers today or food banks today. If someone was in need, they would go to the monastery and the monastery would take care of them. Now, we've already discovered that the Catholic Church would provide many social needs, hospital, medical care. Oftentimes that was the only source for medical care. The church was a social institution that would try to help people be better citizens. You also had a Sunday Mass. Mass is important in Catholicism. Christians took part in rituals called the sacraments. The most important was communion. This is the taking of bread and wine to obey instructions from Jesus during the last Passover meal he shared with his disciples. This diagram gives you an idea of the Catholic Church and the social order. Of course, the Catholic Church is the center of everything during this time period. It maintains social control over the people by tending to their spiritual needs, their spiritual purposes. It also maintained political control by giving social services to the people, much like a government would function today. Francis of Assisi founded the first order of the friars. It became known as the Franciscans. This group of people were missionaries. Missionaries are people who go to other places and share their faith. They taught the poor, and they taught Christianity in different towns and villages. Also had a Spanish priest named Dominic de Guzman. He founded another group called the Dominicans. They were founded to help defend church teachings. This meant that they had to spend a good bit of their life studying the Bible, studying the Scriptures to help understand that so that they could defend the gospel. Thomas Aquinas joined the Dominican friars in 1244, and this was against the wishes of his family. He spent the next few decades studying, teaching, and writing. He wrote about the Bible. He wrote about groups within the church, and he was also a philosopher. His writings are still influential today. In 1233, the Pope established a court called the Inquisition. The Inquisition was a court that was made to try heretics. A heretic is someone who teaches directly against biblical teaching, or that teaches directly against the Catholic Church during this time period. The Dominicans were put in charge of seeking out those people who were guilty of practicing anything other than Catholicism. A person could receive forgiveness after they were punished. The vast majority of the time, though, their property was taken from them. Oftentimes, people would be tortured, and some even put to death if they refused to repent of their ways. I want to talk to you about a word called anti-Semitism. This word, anti-Semitism, is a word that means the Jews are hated, or hatred of the Jews. The Catholic Church historically blamed the Jews for Jesus' death. In addition to being blood libel, Jews were hated because of their money lending practices. Christians also blamed the Jews if any disease, natural disasters, or economic problems of any kind arose in their communities. Hatred of the Jews is called anti-Semitism. Christian mobs attacked and killed thousands of Jews during this time. Governments made them wear special badges. Some had to live in separate communities known as ghettos. Jews also lost the right to own property or practice certain trades. As governments began to get stronger and stronger, economies also began to get stronger in medieval Europe. Because of this, you begin to see more money given to the churches. And as more money is given to the churches and more income is available from the people, you begin to see larger structures begin to be built for houses of worship. Structures like the one on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll notice that you see it is a flat roof. It's a Romanesque design. The next one, you'll notice it's more Gothic in nature. Gothic architecture still exists today. The one at the bottom is a bourgeois made with flying buttresses. If you'll notice on the sides, you'll notice that the weight of the building is redistributed to the outside through those column-like structures. This allows for the buildings to become greater, larger, and over time we begin to see these massive structures. And we still have many of these structures even today.